Yo, what is up, everybody? It's me, that one Weeb here, back with another episode of one of y'all guys' favorite what ifs on this channel. I got some people asking for another part for part 5 for what if Deku could use Chakra. So last time, let's just get right into the video. And make sure to like, comment, subscribe for more, and let's aim for 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. That's our goal right now. So thank you guys so much for supporting me, and I hope you guys like this episode. So let's get right into it. Last time, Deku used Aizawa's Sharingan, like pre-Sharingan eyes that are devolved version of the Sharingan, and then re-evolved them to one of them to Sharingan with his chakra. He then gave Aizawa his eye back after helping fight the Nomu, and after the League of Villains has been defeated and pushed back, let's get right back into the story. After the rest of Class 1A had been interrogated by the police officers determined that there was no more information they could get about Tomura Shigaraki or anyone of the League of Villains other than this Kurogiri person who seems to be quite a key point to their operation. They asked Deku about thanking him for defending the other students and using his power to do that. All Might as well thanks him for helping out everyone else while he wasn't there, and tells Deku that he did a really good job. This makes Deku proud of himself, and he tells All Might he'll continue to do his best to make the world a better place. At that point, then Deku goes back to the class after the 1 week of break. During the 1 week before everything gets back into motion for school, Deku was doing some more research and going into meditation and trying to practice absorbing chakra faster. At this point, he's basically begun developing Sage Mode. As he trained during that week for about, let's say, 4 hours every day. He sat outside by a tree and was working on absorbing nature energy. Because he has a crap ton of chakra, because all the chakra has been condensed into the plants, so any chakra that's residual chakra has just gone into Deku, so he can use it. He's been able to practice doing the Sage Mode training much better than someone back in the Naruto universe would have been able to. Anyway, let's get back to class. So, once Deku gets back to his classroom, Aizawa-sensei tells them about the sports festival. At first, Kirishima, as well as some other people, are wondering if it's such a good idea to do that right after a villain's attack. Then, Aizawa explains that if they show any weakness after an attack like that, then it might just provoke more villains into doing stuff like that. So they all agree to go into the sports festival. After everyone is agreeing to do it, and everyone's getting pretty excited about it, Deku begins wondering if he can use his new technique he had been working on during the last week in this new exam. He asks Aizawa-sensei how much time they have before the sports festival. He said the sports festival will be in 2 weeks, and that the next 2 weeks they'll be continuing classes as normal. Deku begs his mom pretty much to take off one of the days of those each week. She agrees, and Deku is missing for 2 of those days on sick. Deku, throughout the week, goes to class, and when he gets home, he begins working harder on this technique he'd been working on. Basically, he's been training to absorb nature energy. At this point, he's been working on techniques like the Shadow Clone Jutsu and some other things. He is actually training right now to increase his overall skills rather than some specific techniques. His next idea after he can acquire Sage Mode is to work on some more long-range techniques that he can use. But for now, Sage Mode's been plenty difficult for him. It's been really hard for him to separate his own chakra from the nature energy, as most chakra now is just nature energy. So, as Deku's been trying this, he actually tried to contact the Sage of Six Paths again for some advice. The Sage of Six Paths, as he had told him, gave him some of his chakra already, and tells him to use that. So Deku taps into his Sage of Six Paths chakra, and he actually taps into Sage Mode. He taps into his perfect semi-perfect Sage Mode, where he looks kind of, we're gonna do for this Sage Mode, because he's not doing frog training, he's actually gonna have like a wood-style Sage Mode, because like I said, he was training by those trees. As he does this, the black markings of that Hagoromo had appeared on his face, and he realizes that he's absorbing nature energy from the plants. So he calls it his his Sage Mode. So he works on this for those 2 days and the weekends before the sports festival, and he's pretty much got the hang of using perfect Sage Mode for about maybe 5 minutes every day, one time per day. Now that he knows he has this ability, he decides he's going to save it for the very important fights that he has to do. They all start the sports festival the same as the original with the race. As soon as the race begins, then Deku begins charging and charges Chakra into his legs, making him go faster and stronger. As he speeds ahead of everyone else, Ida, him, Bakugo, and Todoroki are all ahead of the rest. As Deku's dodging Todoroki's blasts of ice and Bakugo's explosions, he uses Shadow Clones and normal clones mixed in to take back the rest of the competition. He leaves them behind and has them hold back people in a big crowd barrier like a squadron of police officers. He then uses his kunai that he has and throws them into the ground with explosive tags, causing explosives on the ground to form with Chakra and create more of a rougher terrain for the people to run on. He continues running and then uses some of his ninja tools that he has in his costume. He pulls that out of his Konoha Chunin vest and throws wire over the robot. He pulls himself over the robot, and then just as the ice begins to spread across it, he continues running, and Todoroki and Bakugo are right on his tail. He then uses 50 Shadow Clones that all run backwards towards Bakugo and Todoroki. Bakugo blasts these clones out of the way and continues running while Todoroki freezes them in place, causing them all to poof. As they keep running, Deku thinks of what else he can possibly do. He then charges Chakra into his fist and slams it into the ground, causing stone to erupt behind him, just like Gon does when he's fighting Hisoka. As he continues running, the stone gets in front of Todoroki and Bakugo, causing them to slow down, just like what Gon does with Hisoka during their fight. Just so you can have some imagery in your head. Continuing on with that, though, Deku continues running and actually gets in first place. He gets the the million point headband, and forms a team. People want to be on Deku's team as they actually know that he has some pretty decent skills for evasion, sneaking, and speed, as well as strength. His team in this timeline will be, let's say he'll have, Dark Shadow will stay on his team, Uraraka, I think Ashido and Kirishima might stay, let's say, yeah, Mina would go on to this team with the acid, and then Uraraka would stay on the team. So let's keep the team pretty much the same, except instead of having the girl who has the quirk with the eyes, with the eagle eyes and the inventions, instead we're gonna have Mina Ashido. Basically, what their plan is Mina will create a huge acid rain around them, while Deku uses Shadow Clones and has them go out of the area to go and take the other people's headbands. Dark Shadow will protect them from melee, and Uraraka will make them all of them lighter, as well as make them float into the air so they can move around and evade. Deku uses this to create this chance to create Shadow Clones, and they all head out. Deku begins taking points from a lot of other teams, as well as having the $1 million headband still. Todoroki and Bakugo are actually getting pissed off at Deku and start trying to take him out, like teaming with each other in order to take him out. As they approach Deku, however, Deku looks at them and then he breathes in and out. He then charges Chakra into his hand and then thrusts his hand forward in a wind gale palm. The burst of air shoots towards them and pushes them back. They're surprised as Deku hasn't used this technique before, and they all fall over. They then get back up and try to hurry to get other teams so they can get some points. Then, at the last moment, Bakugo, who has acquired enough points after taking some of Monoma's points, the clone guy, he rushes towards Deku and tries to take him out. At this point, Uraraka uses her quirk and they move out of the way. At that exact moment, the bell rings and Deku is in the top lead, so let's just say all the people who were in the original are still there, and let's get right into the fighting part. So, the same fights pretty much happen with Uraraka versus Bakugo and everyone else's fights, except for the difference is Shinso and Deku's first fight. Deku and Shinso meet each other on the field, and Shinso tries to use his conversation thing on Deku. Deku doesn't respond and instead just makes Shadow Clones who all rush at Shinso. Shinso can't defend against this 4 Shadow Clones, and he then gets pulled out of the arena by Shadow Clones. At that point, Deku then deactivates the clones and helps him up and tells him it was a good match. He then leaves the arena, leaving Shinso feeling more depressed than he had before the match started. Then, all the other fights go pretty much the same, until the point where Todoroki and Deku have their fight. When Todoroki and Deku stand off against each other, Todoroki tells him he's going to go all out. Deku nods and tells him he won't expect any less. He tells him he's going to unveil a new technique he'd been saving just for him. Todoroki's eyes widen as Deku Ultimate breathes in and activates his trump card. His eyes open wide, and as a pigment of black surrounds his face, creating the markings. He's in Sage mode. At that point, he and Todoroki are not on the same level anymore. Deku blitzes towards Todoroki as Todoroki tries to defend with ice. And at that moment, he then Deku sticks his arm out and completely clotheslines Todoroki, causing him to gasp for air as he falls back to the other side of the arena. He then, walking towards Todoroki slowly, charges up the nature energy that he has. He only has 3 minutes left before he times out. He then rushes at Todoroki and then charges up Chakra in his hand. As he charges up Chakra, he tells Todoroki to go all out and that the fire is his power, not his father's. Todoroki activates that ultimate ice flame technique, and just as he's about to shoot it, a blue energy swarms the entire arena. Then, you see it in Deku's hand, the Rasengan. As he holds out the Rasengan and Todoroki screams, he says, "Deku!" Well, that's Bakugo's voice. Todoroki says, "Izuku Midoriya." And then Deku, who sticks his right hand out with the Rasengan, says, "Todoroki! Rasengan!" He then pulls the Rasengan out from behind him and throws the Rasengan into the blast. The Rasengan, filled with nature energy and chakra, begins to overpower Todoroki's and overwhelms him. The Rasengan, growing in strength as it moves forward, takes out Todoroki, and Todoroki's blast into the opposite wall. Deku falls to the floor as his Sage Mode deactivates, just hitting the 5-minute mark. He won't be able to use that again, and he also used a lot of chakra to use that Rasengan. He then, as he is pretty much knocked out, is called a tie. As it's called a tie, this is really not good for Bakugo, because Bakugo gets really pissed off. And then Bakugo fights Ida and Dark Shadow, and Bakugo is number 1 without having really any competition from either of his rivals. Bakugo's pissed off, everything ends, and a certain villain in the background is fighting Tenya Ida's brother, and he leaves blood stained in that hallway. Ida gets a call on his cell phone, and he hears about what happened to his brother. His eyes darken, and he looks out at the sports arena and begins to turn as he walks into the darkness. If you guys want another part for what if Deku could use chakra, then make sure to like, comment, subscribe below, and also we got some new what ifs that'll be coming out soon that I will be looking forward to. I'll see you guys later. Bye.
It's black and white.